What's up and welcome back. I'm John Stark, MacTheMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic. And today I'm going to sort of talk about Beauty in Black. So click that like and subscribe button because I do try to talk about as much content out there as possible. Uh, and that would be a reason to subscribe to me, is because I'm not just clout chasing with the major titles, which, if we're being honest, the other YouTubers that you guys subscribe to don't review because they're not going to get them a million views. There aren't really a million people that are interested in whether or not Beauty in Black is worth watching, but there are a million people interested in knowing whether or not they should go see Venom: The Last Dance. So uh, they'll make the one video for Venom and then move on. So uh, Beauty in Black is a Tyler Perry Studios release for Netflix, who previously this year he's already released Mea Culpa for Netflix. He also this year dropped Divorce in the Black with Amazon. Those are two movies he's dropped. This is I believe, his first um, television project with Netflix, which makes it really interesting because basically he kind of owns BET Plus. Like, it just basically is just Tyler Perry TV shows. Just after Tyler Perry, after Tyler Perry. It's just like his whole thing is just on BET. So while he clearly doesn't have an exclusivity contract, much like Ryan Murphy doesn't have one, it's interesting to see his stuff starting to pop up on Netflix. Because you kind of wonder, like, are you giving your best stuff to Netflix? What kind of stuff are you giving to Netflix? And the answer is, I think he's giving his hardcore stuff to Netflix. The kind of stuff that wouldn't play on cable TV as well. The kind of stuff that wouldn't play where he could use that overlap. That would either just be a BET Plus streaming exclusive, but wouldn't necessarily play on BET. Because a lot of his shows also still play on cable, like The Oval. Um, but yeah, I'm enough versed in Tyler. I know I don't look like a Tyler Perry person. I've seen far more Tyler Perry in my lifetime than I would like to have seen. He has yet to ever impress me as a director. Uh, I've never been fully blown away by him. I really do go all the way back to Diary of a Mad Black Woman, and I think about that movie being maybe his strongest when he didn't buy into his own hype. And I think if he had not been in that movie as Medea, it would have been an interesting story about a woman trying to recover from abuse and find a better version of herself. There's a there's a chunk of that movie in Kimberly Elise's performance that works really well, but it's kind of just saddled down by uh, his attempts to make a comedy out of it and sell uh, the funny in something that's not, which is what a lot of those Medea movies do. But this is dark. And when you think about how Tyler Perry, who I don't think is actually directing any of these episodes, but he's still putting his Tyler Perry Studios name on it. When you think about the fact that he started making these church plays that gained him such a following with Black audiences, so that his stuff, he's had VHS releases of his plays. He's had DVD releases of his plays. He went on to get his movies made for theatrical release. He's been asked to direct other things outside of the Medea franchise. He started acting himself outside of his own series, outside of his franchise. He's actually pretty decent in Gone Girl. He was pretty decent in Vice as well. So he has ventured out himself as an actor, but um, he certainly has made a lot of money with his Atlanta studios pumping out content and definitely giving Black actors and actresses a chance to get their feet wet if they're not as well known. It seems to be a great place. I don't know any of these actors and actresses, but a lot of them get opportunities through this mass amount of content that he's able to create and propagate out there. into the world through movies and TV shows just by putting Tyler Perry Studios in front of it. So it's kind of brilliant what he's able to do, but it doesn't mean that I don't think any of it's really good. And I even see, it doesn't really seem like this stuff registers with people anyway. Like, I don't really see people online liking it. Um, even my friends who are of the target demographic, I'm not going to say black friends. I hate people when they do that. Like, I have black friends. Okay, well, I have friends of all. I just mean people of the target demographic for these series, but who might see themselves represented in the cast. This is a story about a sex worker, predominantly. We're introduced to her. We see her sort of in the first. I'm only reviewing the first 2 episodes. I need to get out of this series. I'm sorry. I'm not watching. I'm not watching the series. I'm not finishing season 1. It's there's too much other television and film right now. I watched 2 episodes. It did not get any better. It did not increasingly gain my attention. So to be fair, there's another show that I'm not going to get into that you'll see me review later on that I'm not finishing either. So, but, or unlikely to finish, I should say. I haven't reviewed it yet, but this is her story, seems to be, against another story. Because if you're wondering, like, well, where does the Beauty in Black come from? That's actually the name of, like, this label, this, I want to say, like I don't want to say like a makeup brand, because it's more like it's also like hair and products, beauty products targeted for African Americans. I don't know. That's the best way to say. There's a person that is there's a lady that's at the top of that, and she presents herself, of course, to the world as being this like amazing individual who's just so generous and kind and warm. And like a baby vomits on her in the first episode, and she keeps her chill. But she's one of those people that, like, immediately when she gets out of public view, is just a horrible human being, just like a complete garbage human being. And so you realize that kind of no one in here is likable. There isn't really like a character to root for. The closest thing that you've got is this sex worker, and she's in a really dark show. And I don't mean the cast. Yes, I acknowledge the fact that that could mean two things, but I mean, like, tonally, when you think about where Tyler Perry started and where he came from, he's basically writing a show about a sex worker and her struggle in life. And then it's against, I guess somehow it's going to weave in with this brand, and how this brand, there's a reporter that's you see in the first episode that is like, oh, your straightener causes cancer. How do you respond? And then she gets in the car and she's like, somebody needs to kill that bitch in the middle of the street. I'm just like, damn, that went from 0 to 100 real fast. Like, I feel like normal conversations would be like, okay, so how do we get around this? Somebody should have, like, no, she goes immediately to like murder her in the street. Specifically in the street, by the way, not like covertly, not quietly, but like openly in the middle of the street, please. So that's what I'm saying. Like, as soon as she gets in the car, you find out, oh my God. So everyone's a villain. The guys here, if you are somebody who does not like violence against women, sucks to be you, because this show is definitely violence against women. I don't know what I can't, at least in the beginning, it's hard to find positive representation for a male figure out of this cast. It really just doesn't exist. We see flashbacks to, I want to say her name is Mia, that is the main character. We see flashbacks to her, and she literally gets kicked out of her house because her mom is worried that when Mia turns 18, that her boyfriend, spouse, partner thing is going to go after her, obviously sexually, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, She's like, you know, and you kind of wonder because she's doing it in such like are you doing it for her or are you doing it for you? Like, are you worried that you're gonna lose your boyfriend to your daughter? Or are you worried that he's just gonna sexually abuse your daughter and you won't be able to take that and make better life choices? You know what I'm saying? Like nobody here makes great life choices. My biggest problem with the project is that while we see Mia, I'm just gonna keep calling her that, go through her like backstory. There's a scene where because she's homeless at that point because her parents have kicked her out. It's also juxtaposed, like it's not all told linearly. Like you see her going through the stuff as a sex worker, and the guys are rough, and her life is constantly threatened. And you're like, how did she get here? And it's a cheery show. You're like, why is this a Christmas? Why is this a Halloween? Like, what is what is this show doing here? Like, what does this have to do with anything? And like Tyler with his like Christian product placement, like all the time. Like, I can't wait to see. But I'm not going to wait to see. But I would love to see just somebody just update me how they work like God into this at the end. How they turn this around for his typically like religious based audience. Um, how they're able to get people who go to church all the time actually watching this and sitting through all of this sex and violence and be like, yeah, I'm sure later on there will be a moral to the story if we just stick with it long enough. Um, she finds this friend, Rain. I think it's Rain. Is her name, who seems streetwise. Like she's been homeless slightly longer, but then she goes and makes like a terrible life choice in the first episode, one that we've sort of like heard about before. It's been on the news that it's like stumbled into, and she's struck me as being probably in the flashback before she makes this life choice. She strikes me as being the smartest character in the show. And I was kind of hoping that she might be the bright spot because God, this show needs a bright spot. This show needs somebody who's not just, whose life isn't in the fucking sewer. Just the absolute, just, this is one of the most depressing shows I think I've watched in a long time. Like, I didn't like any of the characters. Most of them need to be hit by a car. Like, I mean, like, there's somebody who is actually hit by a car. It's just really funny. I said that off the cuff, but like they're just like the kind of people that the world would not miss. Like it doesn't show any niceness or kindness or positivity, intelligence. You know what I'm saying? Like for a lot of these people, they're just mean spirited. Like the whole show, like the pilot is just a whole bunch of people who are just nasty to people, and you're like, what is this? And it's like, yeah, I can sympathize with the fact that Mia should probably have a better life for herself. And I think the show is going to be like, how did she get here? But even Mia, when you see her, she's a little bit of a shrinking violet. So she's somebody who you could see easily being manipulated into the situation. But she has this friend Rain who seems much smarter. And she goes and makes a dumbass decision in the first episode. And you're like, what the fuck is she doing? What is she doing? Like, you introduced the only intelligent character that has any sort of a positive, upbeat, like, let's solve this problem, you know, and then you immediately turn her into almost like a fucking corpse, like, within, like, the first episode. And I don't know what the metric is. I don't know who sits in the room and says, this is what people want to see. I don't think anybody wants to see this. I don't think anybody, I can't think of a show where there's no one that you root for. You know, it's so hard because it's like, I was rooting for Rain, and then she like, within the first episode, she's kind of like knocked out of the equation, and she's kind of still out of the equation in the second episode. So, I don't know that that is the right word, but, um, life choices, make better life choices. I don't know. Mia has a lot of stuff that's thrust upon her, so I think that's what they're hoping for, is that you'll watch an entire series with this girl who basically, like, the world is standing on her neck, you know, the whole world, not just one person. This isn't just like you know, it's like I can't find a single good person in this entire fucking show. Even Divorce in the Black, like, yeah, some stuff is messy, and there are some characters, and you're like, well, Megan Good, she obviously needs to get out of that relationship. Clearly, her boyfriend is nuts. Why are you even here? Why did you stay? You know, like, you can have all those conversations. But in rides this dude, this from back in the day, this country guy, and he seems like legitimately presented from the beginning of I'm a good guy. And thank God the film stuck with that, with the I'm a good guy route. And that was one of the only reasons I liked Divorce in the Black, was because of that guy. I was like, oh my God, thank Jesus. There's a character in here that is just like counterbalancing so much of the other shit. And I'm not saying that like dudes are awesome, but damn, it's also the women too. I mean, they have like a lot of the women here are just nothing really works. Everything is dark. Everybody's yelling at each other, threatening each other's lives. Everybody's like, "Don't step on my territory. If you don't do this, I'm gonna kill you." It's very just. So I'm telling you, I'm 2 episodes. I'm tapped out. Is it the worst show I've ever seen? No, but it is one of the shows that I just, when we talk about pilots and motivating me to see the next episode, I was not motivated to see the next episode. Tyler Perry or no Tyler Perry, this could have been a Shonda Rhimes show. This could have been Ryan Murphy. This could have been literally any of the producers. You can take the Tyler Perry effect out of it, and I still would not have wanted to watch the second episode, because it is so, it doesn't seem to have any light to it at all. It's so dark. And to compare it to other dark television shows that have sort of a balance, they don't go quite as dark as this, though. They're not constantly, the violence against women isn't as pervasive. I know John Turturro is trying to make it sound like the Penguin is like the worst thing to happen to women since, you know, I'm trying to think of like the best thing I could say to that. The worst thing that happens to women since fuck men. But it's just it's just not, this is not, the Penguin is not that, you know. And his read on the Penguin versus what he did in the Batman is absurd. For that quote that keeps passing around where he says that he didn't want to do the Penguin because of the violence against women. It's like, dude, you did violence against women in the Batman. So either you are incompetent at reading scripts or something, but stop using that as the reason why you didn't join the Penguin when it was just scheduling conflicts. So yeah, is the Penguin is everybody's a bad guy, but my God, it's not like every episode is just full of just like darkness and shit and people being evil to each other and being mean. You can see people, and you can see that they're all on the bad side of things, but like within that, there is sort of like, even within the Penguin, there's a sort of a hierarchy of friendship and trust that's built between certain people and family and understanding, so that way they're not constantly trying to kill each other and beat each other up and threaten each other. And we're not following the character who's at like the lowest rung of the ladder and who's constantly being shit upon, which is what makes the Penguin interesting, is that even though Oz is not at the top, he's also not at the bottom. So it's about his rise, trying to get to like, he sees the top and he sees how he can get there, but he's also not at the bottom. So it's about the way he treats people, like he treats Vic. He treats Vic like a normal fucking human being instead of like constantly threatening his life and you know, like, it's just not the same tone. This tonality to the show is incredibly dark, incredibly depressing, and I can't imagine anybody wanting to watch this all the way through. This is like the opposite of Virgin River, and I don't just mean that because the cast looks completely different. I'm just saying, like, Virgin River is like the kind of fluff that you put on in the background, and even when something consequential happens, you're like, they'll probably be fine. The whole town's on fire. Oh, I'm sure it'll work out. This is Virgin River, guys. I'm sure nothing really bad happened. And Jack's bar will be safe. And Jack and Mel will still be in love. And everything will just be perfect. Like, Virgin River is just fluffy happiness, which is why it's already been picked up for season 7. This is the complete opposite of that. this is like a chore to get through to the next episode because you're like, what more bad shit could possibly happen to these characters? I need a light at the end of the tunnel. There is none. It's as a blind person, it's like being in my pitch black darkness as a show and seeing nothing and having no future and no light and just being like, I don't know why this exists. I don't know why this is the story he felt like that needed to be told. Yes, villains make great characters, but an entire series full of villains who are all operating at the same level does not necessarily. Even a show about villains has layers. A good show about villains has layers to it. It just has no layers. Um, so yeah, I can't really come up with that much positive stuff. I did like the audio description. It does make a bold choice sort of at the beginning. I've talked a lot about making sure that representation happens in audio description. This just straight up tells you the cast is predominantly black before the beginning of every episode. You want to know why I watched 2 episodes? Because I wanted to know whether or not it did that every episode or it was only going to do it for the first episode. It does it for every episode. So it lets you know the cast is predominantly black for every episode. Just in case for some reason you decide to start Beauty and the Black and halfway through the first season. I don't know. I don't know your life choices. But it's a strong choice. I like the audio description. There was one choice that I misunderstood, but I was like, I think there was a character that didn't have a name yet, and so he was described as the man in the shirt, and I was like, is that a character description? And if so, are other men not wearing shirts? So it made me ask more questions than it did actually like answer like, oh yeah, that guy, you know? Um I might have misheard that, but at the same time I thought that's what I heard, which was the man in the shirt. And I was like, I don't um okay. guess I guess a lot of other dudes just walk around without shirts on. Cool. Uh, I can't recommend this to anybody. And to be totally honest, I actually think Tyler Perry's movies have a more redeeming quality to them this year and more balance and more levels to them than this TV show has in the first 2 episodes. There's more light and in even Mea Culpa, which is about like like is he a killer or not? You know, that show, believe it or not, actually has more lightness to it than it does this. This is one of the most depressing things I think I've seen in my life in terms of a television series. I'm surprised it is where it is. And I would be shocked if this found an audience and went on to get like a second season. I can't imagine who wants to watch a show that is this depressing. Like who gets at the end of their day, they've had a long day and they sit down and like, you know what I want to put on? This. Because she's having a worse day than me. Her life is just, my God, if she makes it to the end of the season alive, it'll be an achievement. I'm going to give Beauty in Black a D. I don't hate the acting, I would say, which is unusual for a Tyler Perry show. Sometimes he has, but the problem is that oftentimes these guys are just given really bad dialogue. And it's not that the acting is bad. You have to think about what it is that they're saying. It's like, could Denzel have made that line work? No. Like, there's sometimes where something will be like, I don't know. And then you're like, I don't think really anybody could have made that line work. They did the best that they could with that line. Like I said, when she gets in the car and her immediate reaction is to kill that bitch in the streets. I'm like, that feels like we went to a new place where not really most writers would have gone. But so I don't think it's a bad actor. I think it's just the dialogue choice. And so yeah, I think it's more writing here. I think this is just the writing for the show is not strong. So anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I know I seem like the least likely person to review this, but that's what I say. Like and subscribe because I review as much as I possibly can for you guys, especially if it has audio description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on the other side.